versus district. I forwarded to the board all of my comments on the draft agreement I had. I'm not sure how the board is gonna get answers to some of the questions I raised. So spending more time on this, and it might have to be a separate meeting that we can dedicate an hour or so to go over this. First of all, did everyone get all of my comments? Okay.
No.
I just sent it to board members
When did you send that?
last week.
You got it?
Yeah, with an email,
Amended and restated.
with an email attached.
I got it.
I sent it to the all town board
So
website.
you can tell when it was sent?
Yeah,
Well, before you do anything, I'll check the date,
April 8th.
April 8th. This doesn't look familiar, but I have a big.
It was an
stack.
attachment.
Yes, so my suggestion is that we schedule a standalone meeting to discuss what I raised in here as questions. Because I don't have a recommendation for you today, other than if you're gonna approve it, get my questions addressed to your satisfaction first.
You know if,
And that's where you had commented about, like, a community leaving the, district and would have no
About the not
compensation
contributing to
for
the capital fund.
Right. And I also have another question regarding all of the money that's been sent to purchase equipment.
right,
It doesn't, it just says that if you choose to withdraw, that's it. You have no equity in anything that you paid to purchase.
that was done with that express purpose. You don't want, once you.
Well, yeah, that'll keep people in the agreement, you think.
Yes, and I believe to change that, you have to really think long and hard on that, though, you can't make it too easy, cause then it really leaves you in a lurch. What are you gonna take, half a fire truck away from you? Can't do it. So, okay, update then?
So I would say table that.
and I saw the use of fire commission in the language.
Yeah, the wording was different all over the place here. I just want a uniform, what is it going to be called? Where did this fire commission language come in? Because they're referenced in a paragraph or two.
And who makes up the fire commission?
Right. I'll make sure, I'll send it again. Who said they did not receive
I
it?
didn't recall,
I'm pretty sure I had it, 'cause I remember
but
though.
I have the date, so
I have it, I just.
if I don't have it, I will
Okay.
send you. an
If you
email.
can't find it, I'll resend it, and we can review my comments, and we'll talk about it next month. And then the only other item I have is update on a draft ATV, UTV ordinance. I'll have a draft ready for the annual meeting. I just got the list of roads, I think on Thursday or Friday, that I need to include in my draft.
Will you be able to send that to me to make copies for
Yes.
the meeting?
Maybe we can review it on, have it on Monday.
I have time blocked off on my calendar. I believe if it's not tomorrow, it's on Wednesday afternoon. I'm hoping to get that done.
Great, you good?
I'm good.
Okay, public comments period number 2, anybody not get it? Not ready? Ready?
Bernard Long, N 8634 Stringers Bridge Road. I think most of the stuff is gonna be for the attorney. Was any consideration in ordinances for ATV, UTVs, et cetera, and the size that's gonna be allowed? Such as the new stuff that's out?
I think I need to incorporate that.
I think so too. And second part, which I don't know if you are aware or not, but, is it possible that included in here would be RTVs and XTVs.
It'll be based on what the DNR allows. That's what I'm basing my ordinance around.
Okay, the DNR allows for what? On the trails?
I don't have the draft to present to anyone yet, so.
Okay, I don't.
I have the research,
Well, this is what
done
I'm
and-
asking, I'm gonna
okay.
show you what I'm talking about. This is an RTV. This is an XTV, you can keep these, send them around. The XTV is a water vehicle or land vehicle. As you can see, you can keep all these.
I wanna say, I believe the DNR sample ordinance probably has the definition section as to what,
And then you have ATVs that are track mobiles, are they gonna be allowed also? There's pictures of them here also.
okay, I'll look at what you
That's
have,
the only thing.
I'll look at what you have.
I
Are
own-
these copies to keep, or do
They're
you
to
need
keep.
these back?
No, these are yours to keep.
Okay.
I own the RTV and I own one of those.
Okay.
So anyhow, I just thought if we can get that clarified.
I will look into it, thank you.
Well, it says like street legal. And it said
Street legal, is that
Subject
ever,
to-
is that ever
subject to the,
stated anywhere? Street
In the
legal?
DNR sample, I don't think so.
Don't that state statute?
Yeah.
said it required
Yeah, 25.
license.
No, 323.
Lighting and,
Okay, I'll see another hand go up, there before it's coming up. Name and address and what you wanna do.
Hi, hello and good evening. My name is Sam Weaver. I'm actually not a resident of the town of East Troy. I'm a project manager for
Yes,
Painville.
oh, you want some, please?
Sure, Nigbirds, N as in Nancy, I-G, B as in boy, U-R.
And your address?
New Berlin, 13717, West Ferguson, New Berlin. So what I wanted to talk today was just, I wanted to bring up some concerns we had as a contractor regarding the road bids, and it's nothing necessarily that is wrong or anything like that, it's just something that, some things we wanted to express. The main thing is that the road bid that we saw this year and that we've seen previously is typically a lump sum project. And that can raise some issues, and the specs for the project would read a 20-foot road or 23 feet wide road, and it's from this point to this point. Well, on a lump sum project where that can become an issue is if that road widens or narrows or anything, if the specs don't clarify that that's approximate or et cetera, and if we're not going off of quantities, there's no real way to compare, how you see people's numbers are coming in. So for example, on the bid opening today, I think it was, Stark was at 495,000, Wolf was at 502,000, but without having unit prices or quantities, we don't really know which contractor is getting which, scope of work. 'Cause you can go off of the spec, but for example, I think it's Bell School Road widens out to 30 feet at one point, but the specs on the project only said 23 feet. And I think Weber Road is more realistically around 16 feet, but the spec said 18 feet. So,
Town standards.
and that's, if we're widening it, I believe the town spec is 2 inches of surface pavement. And if you were to widen that road, a portion of it, you're gonna be paving in people's front yards, and, we do that for another municipality, and we always recommend against it and notify them that if we do win the bid, we notify them that, hey, we can't warranty that because it doesn't meet with stat spec and things like that. So that's just something I wanted to mention, and the concerns we had, that if we went with the unit price, even if the municipality, if you guys did it yourself, if Todd did it himself and we bid with quantities, then we're all looking at the same thing, because if the quantities change, for example, if the bid package on the specs had, just for the sake of numbers, 1,000 square yards of roadway at 2 inches of surface pavement for the town spec, well, we're all bidding 1,000 square yards, we're not basing it off of what the spec reads at 23 feet wide, when the road could widen out to 30. And then that way, it's more apples to apples comparison, and we're leaving less in the dark. So that was the main thing that we wanted to bring up as a concern, and again, I wanna make sure I'm not Not trying to say that Todd's doing anything, nothing like that, it's just,
We'll,
You know,
we'll
concerns
discuss
like
that further, but, it has been discussed in the past. And the example you had, if that really happens a lot, then I would be concerned. But it hasn't been an issue for us really, but we'll look at it, okay? And if it's egregious enough, go ahead and, write a letter to the town and then we will even take it further.
Okay.
All right, thank
alright,
you.
thank you.
Is part of the bid process, I wasn't sourcing, sorry, so do we include, questions? Or you can ask questions before submitting your bid, and then everyone gets those answers?
Correct, and that was, we did,
Todd.
me and Mackenzie had stopped by to talk to Todd, and we didn't, I think we stopped relatively shortly before the bids were due.
Yeah.
So we didn't submit anything in writing, just because it was short timing, but, something that I had thought of that would be beneficial and something that would be small is, some municipalities in their bid documents, they specify like a pre-bid conference or something like that, so if it was lump sum like this, if you schedule, we're gonna do a pre-bid meeting, and that way, all the contractors, you have to be there, that way, if it is lump sum, everyone's on the same page and you all kinda know. So that's, that's another avenue, something that would ease it, because,
But everyone should be on the same page because the bid documents are all the same for,
And I'm guessing if you could drive the roads that are listed in the bid document, and I'm guessing Todd would drive with you, or if that was your question, or, so I think it's a fair process, the way it is right now, as long as, as a supplier, if you have those questions, you have an opportunity to get them clarified.
correct, and the only concern would be that if
You better be everybody at the
If
same page,
anything's verbal.
at the same amount.
verbal is where the real issue is, in having things in writing, so I think the main thing I noticed was, that I can look at off the top of my head was Weber Road is in some seriously bad condition right now, and I believe the specs in the project classified like a 2-inch mill and replace. We had spoke with Todd that, that might not be the way to go, it might just be a 2-inch overlay at 18 feet wide and not 16 feet wide. Well, that might be the case, but the specs say 2-inch remove and replace. So I would have to theoretically bid it to remove 2 inches, contractually, legally speaking. But if another contractor was going to take on a risk, and I'm not saying anyone was, they could, for example, not include that in their bid, taking on a risk, and theoretically then be the low bidder. So that's where that concerns comes in.
Understood.
So,
And we will review the
I
details.
did that work for 40 years, so I know what you're exactly saying.
yeah, it's
But
just,
you're not gonna get the same spec on our work as you get for a DOT project.
yeah, no, I'm not asking anything like that,
Proving
just,
it, that's something we're gonna look at.
so,
Okay, thank you.
yeah, thank you much.
One more hand? Two more, Bob.
And me too.
Come on.
Told you it was gonna be a late.
Hi, Steve Schneider, W1216 Beach Road. I was just wondering if there was an update on, I've been gone for several weeks on the Hotel 1340. Maybe thought there was a lot, but when I left, there was a lawsuit going.
Yeah, the lawsuit was, ruled on, and the judge, sent it back to Walworth County zoning and said, start your process over using a state statute for a law that passed 4 years ago. They said they have to review it under that also. In other words, they told them not to use their own ordinance, is what they said.
Oh, really?
Alright, so it goes back to them, and they'll get input from everybody, and then they'll render a decision. And if it's still no, it goes back to the judge, and the judge will make a ruling. Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
back, it's gone to court.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
I just want to comment on a couple things. First of all, the police building, I hate politics. It's kind of like a divorced family fighting over who placement of kids, and it's shown that way with the election as well. I've researched some of the garage thing, the police garage proposed plans include elevators and offices and handicapped accessible bathrooms. none of which is being presented today. There's a annual meeting, with a budget. I would recommend that you guys put a line item for budget for the garage, so that when we vote on the budget, we know what the proposal is gonna be for the garage. And
We did budget $200,000.
okay, I was gonna say, and over budget a little bit. I'm on a board, we always over budget and usually underspend, but prices come up with things. And as far as the police committee, you know, making that recommendation to merge with the town, I don't really have the numbers for an informed decision. I know that Michelle was on the committee, along with several others, myself, and we did good work with the communications committee. We worked with the town, we worked with outside sources, and brought a recommendation to the board. But I also know with the division, you know, of boards and politics, that it's kind of hard to get a non-biased opinion. I think it would be a good idea to have a committee form, bring a recommendation to the board, and if indeed we are gonna save a lot of money by combining police departments, then at that time have an outside source that's non-partial, that can research it out with the information that we've gathered, and go with that research then. You know, if we can save money, you know, it's free to have a committee do the work, you know, it's time and effort, but with that recommendation, then the board would hire an outside source at that time. I think it's fiscally responsible. That's it.
Thank you. All right, who's next?
Jess Heineck, W 1969 Eastwood Road, to continue on with what Bob said, regarding the police. Maybe I missed it, but I didn't hear an answer to the question of why we even need to look at this. I mean, I'm pretty happy, very happy with the current police force. I think they do a fantastic job. They drive past my house, when I call, they're here. I'm not so willing to have my taxes go up with what I believe would be a lesser service. So I think before we start jumping ahead with committees and everything, I'd like to know why we even need to do this. What's the rationalization? Give me some pros and cons. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
What's the last name, Debbie?
DYNEK.
Hi, Anna. I thought that's what it was, but I wanted to be sure.
1, 2, 3.
I pay my taxes and I don't want them to go up.
You're the Mr. Green a lot.
The village's mill rate is 3 times ours.
Thank you.
Carla Georgie, North 859 East Bridge Road. I didn't want to address the fence issue, but I couldn't stay quiet. My question is what is a commissioner supposed to do that's a liaison between the planning commission and giving you information? When we went in front of the commission, or the planning commission, and we were trying to address some of the concerns of what was brought up with the Brennans and the size of fence they have. And I hate to do this, but Mr. Kesselman was sleeping while I was bringing questions. Now that's how concerned you were.
Sleeping?
You were sleeping.
Just because his eyes are closed.
No,
He was doing that earlier
No, his
tonight.
head was, it's like this, the commissioner next to him was giving him a dirty look.
Good for you.
Because you weren't
Good for
listening.
I
You
was
weren't
listening
listening.
intently.
And the reason why you weren't listening is now you brought false information. There was no discussion about 8-foot fence. They weren't asking for an 8-foot fence variance. And I would like clarification on that, because if there's precedent set for an 8-foot fence, I think that's ridiculous. Originally, what they did was they asked for they originally asked for an 8-foot fence, they were denied. And they were told that the variance was 6 feet tops. Another clarification on what was brought also to the board was that as far as the ground differences, a fence has to vary with the ground differences. Nothing can go beyond 6 feet, nothing. So therefore, if you're 2 inches off, you lower it or whatever. I live right across from the Girl Scout camp. I look at a fence that's set at what it should be at, no higher than whatever it is, 5 or 6 feet there. That rolls like this, the fence goes with it. Just because you roll down here doesn't allow you to have another foot up, off of the ground. So that was all misinformation brought. And as far as hardship, we gave you pamphlets on hardship. The hardship that was brought to the, planning commission was simply they don't like the neighbors. Okay? Hardship is more than emotion put into it or a dollar amount that might harm them. They brought their own hardship onto themselves. They put a fence up that was wrong, and the hardship of possibly having to spend the money to lower it is not a hardship. A hardship is not because you don't like the neighbors the way the yard looks. That is not hardship. And I'm sure what's going to go on as far as with the county is that they follow the law to the T. But I'm just astonished on how little correct information came in front of you. Thank you.
Anybody else? John? Anybody else after John? I'm just trying to see. Anybody else want to talk?
All right, I got a few questions, and I want to make a few statements. Will the 2021 town audit be on the town's website so we can download it and view it, watch it, look at it?
Not have it in electronic format.
Well, that's funny, because I talked to a lady who was putting a presentation on
She
earlier.
hasn't presented, given it to
Okay,
you
but she
yet?
says she sends it to you guys electronically. When it is sent over, will it be up for us to get?
Yes, I can put it on the
All
website.
right, thank you, very good. All right, I'd like to clear up some information that's been kicked around about, item number 7 on the agenda, K number 3. The variance originally came here in 2019 and asked for a variance to put up a 7-foot tall fence. And they were denied. They asked for a variance to put up the fence up to the lot line, which they were granted. Okay, however, the town board changed the zoning, or changed the, fence ordinances within weeks of them getting that variance. So in your own ordinance, it says you can't have the fence higher than 6 feet anywhere, period. It also says you can have the fence up to the lot line. Earlier in my, public comments time, I illustrated that the fence is clearly 4 or 5 inches over the lot line. So with that being said, I contacted, Adam Sight, who is he works at Knightberry Title. He's the chief title officer, and I ran this by him, and I asked him questions, and I have an email from him here that clearly states if any of his fence, is in our yard encroaching, that's gonna muddy and cloudy our title. If our title gets cloudy and muddy, I and Carla are gonna bring the town into the suit because you're advocating him to allow that fence to be over the lot line. And we'll have it surveyed, we'll have it documented, but I clearly showed that it was. And I showed the survey how I knew because, the gentleman from Kettle Moraine Land Survey had his equipment out there when he was doing my, survey for my containers on the property. And he clearly told me exactly where the fence is. It's sitting on the lot line. Portions of the 4x4 posts are over, and portions of the footing on the post are over. So we're gonna end up with a muddy title, and it's gonna come back to the town board here. I hope it doesn't. I hope the county does their job and effectively kills this whole thing, and Tim just simply moves the fence back and lowers it down to 6 feet, and we're all happy. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, I think he's gonna bring a survey to that meeting.
Sure, okay.
I told you more last month, it's gonna be a battle of surveyors because.
It's not much.
Well, height is height.
Okay,
Height is height.
all right, on item number 10C on the board, on the agenda tonight, I would like to commend the frontline police officers that patrol our streets. They do a good job.
Finish it.
All right, they do a good job. However, the selective enforcement by the chief is disturbing. I would like to give the example that during the cleanup process of North 8590 Stringers Bridge Road, the chief of police for the town wrote Carla and I 10 citations. During the same time period, I received 0 citations from the county.
Two different issues. One is zoning and one is junk, just so you know.
Right, but the fact of the matter is, if I worked exclusively with the county and received 0 citations, and I tried to work exclusively with the town, with the chief when he was out enforcing the junk, There's a disconnect there, because how can one agency write 10 tickets and the other one write 0 tickets?
Jim can explain that, it's pretty easy, really. Do two separate animals.
Okay, well, now,
Actually, the chief is going to have to explain that during the municipal court trial process.
we have 5 tickets that have to be
I
adjudicated.
present what I have to the court, and part of that is asking the chief, venue, identity, elements, those are what have to be proven at a municipal court trial. I present the evidence, the chief is asked the basis for his issuing the citation, and then the court decides.
Yeah.
So,
That's- Okay, understood.
All right, and can I say something on 9C real quick, and I'll get out of here?
Quick,
Okay,
quick.
I am for anything that brings increased transparency to town. I am for anything that brings a reduction in duplication of services. And I am for anything that allows a commission, a police commission to be formed, so we can have citizens that are from the community that have active input in disciplinary measures and hiring and firings of police chiefs. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? We're getting close to a record, we already had over 3 hours for a while. So we're up to 3.5. You all good? Can we repeat it? Okay, license and special events.
I have 2 special event permits. The first one is for Dave Gray. We use the Jim Burns Memorial Park on April 23rd. The chief has reviewed both permits and approved both of them. But the first one is just for Dave.
I move we approve the park special event permit for Dave DeGrave for the Jim Burns Memorial Park for April 23rd, 2022.
I'll second.
Right, motion second to approve that special events permit. Question, hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye, opposed, none.
Okay, the second one is for Laura Rahman of Bloom 360, which is the old Stone School property. Their event is going to be on their property, the old school property, which is N8921 Stone School Road. The event is May 23rd, and it is the end of the school year event. And once again, the chief has reviewed and approved.
I move we approve Laura Rahman Bloom 360 special event permit at N8921 Stone School Road, May 23rd, 2022.
I'll second.
Right, motion second, discussion?
It's at their own property, so are
Correct.
they asking,
Yeah.
they're gonna be serving, or no?
No, it has nothing to do with alcohol, it's
It's
just a
just
large.
that
The
how
amount of
many
people
people,
and
it's
all
based
that.
on how many people they have? Okay.
All right, on the motion, all in favor say aye. Aye, opposed, none. All right, special and pending meeting is the only one that I said we have to kind of factor in here now.
The ComCom meeting,
It's what?
it's Gene's nickname for the ComCom, communication.
Oh,
release.
ComCom?
ComCom meeting.
In the military, that means code.
Wait, I didn't ask her.
Don't you have communication every first and third?
Joe was
Monday?
asking.
I asked to put it on the schedule, because
Yeah.
on her agenda,
For
and
everybody.
she'll.
Oh, okay. So that pending meetings, I was thinking special meetings.
Pending, we have it on the website.
Yes, you said that.
Yeah, Gene added them to the website.
But I think we're not gonna meet on the 18th.
Okay.
You think so? We're not gonna meet on the 18th because we didn't get the agreement signed.
Okay, I will cancel that one. Okay, April 15th, the town hall is closed. April 19th at 6:30 is the annual meeting at the firehouse. April 20th at 6:30 is the Duke Lake Memorial Park Board meeting. April 21st from 1 to 3 is open book by phone. May 4th is 8 at 6:30 is planning commission. 4th and 18th, yes, sorry. May 7th, from 9 to 2 is the E-Cycle event. May 9th is the next regular town board meeting. And May 30th, the town hall will be closed for Memorial Day.
Okay,
Michelle's birthday is Sunday. Happy birthday.
Is it okay?
And I am going to be on vacation from the 20th to the 27th.
All right,
And if you don't mind, I suggested to Kim, for the annual meeting, if you know the new owners of Roma's, you might wanna ask them for permission to park in their lot. Because parking will be, there'll be less of it available than last year.
I have his number, Joe, I just talked to him not too long ago, so
okay,
if you wanted it, share, reach out.
unless you wanna just handle that.
I can ask him tomorrow.
If he has any problem, then no. If it's easy, just do it. So, okay. Room with parking, okay.
And
And then,
then the communication committee meetings are at 6:30, and they would be May 2nd and 16th.
Exactly,
second and 15.
60.
Okay, and then we have to add a meeting, a closed meeting with, probably John and Chief. Oh, boy,
Yeah, two, because he asked for the ETA, he listed it. Right.
You can include that on the same date.
Okay.
I don't think so, cause we have to get a closeout issue with the chief and then an interim. 21st, anybody? Thursday, 21st?
That's a town court.
We in Mexico?
Mexico,
Well, then
plus
we have
there's
a,
court.
we have about, oh, wait a minute,
That's court.
okay,
So you're asking for the 21st of this month?
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's this one, 26th,
No, I'll be out the 22nd through the 1st.
you going to Florida again?
No, I'm going to the Dominican Republic.
Oh, that makes me feel worse.
Yeah.
When are you leaving?
We leave on the 22nd, I'll be back the following Saturday.
Okay, the 21st,
That won't work.
But that doesn't work
Court.
for court.
Wednesday, the 20th
Booth Lake and Planning Commission. There's Planning
It
Commission.
says planning commission is, oh, that's May.
28th,
Planning commission's out for this month?
that's,
So the 20th you have, like,
Booth Lake
Oh.
meeting.
oh,
good boy.
Annual's on the 19th, right?
Yeah.
Tax day is the 18th.
What's the meeting?
Yeah.
What's the meeting?
The meeting is
Um,
between the chief and John.
Okay,
and to review, you potentially review the East Troy Area Emergency Services District contract.
Do I need to be there?
If it's after the
Yeah.
19th,
Yeah.
After the
19th, you're on.
19th, yeah, it would be. you'd be-
I'm out, you're in.
What's the date?
We
we're
don't.
trying to figure
We're trying to figure that out.
they're trying to add a day.
Yeah, we need an 8-day week. 27th?
It's my 20th anniversary.
I'm
Yeah,
not,
we're not-
the 22nd through at least the 30th, we're not doing Saturday and Sunday, right? So, for me, it would be,
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
we say
that's
27th.
gonna, I really want to be a part of this, so whatever
Yeah.
we can do,
What can we do this week?
you know, I missed some stuff last time.
But
and
do
I
you want, you know, incoming supervisor Walker to be part of that?
Well, you wouldn't
I
have to
can't
do
do
next
anything
week,
this week.
but you're talking
We
about
can't
this
do
week
next
already.
Yeah, but, because we can't do anything after the 19th. So that leaves us this week.
Well, I get it. It's Easter week, I'm not gonna do that. Do you have anything that, yeah, I mean, we could do it, it's a closed meeting, so we could do it actually any time of the day. You're leaving when? When?
I'll be leaving the 22nd, that afternoon.
Okay, what was the problem, 21st was open book, but that's by phone.
in court.
In court.
And that works. Okay, and the 20th,
Booth Lake
Booth-
meeting,
all right,
unless, what would you think that if I missed that meeting in order to make something happen to try to?
I have
you know,
3 trials remaining for the 21st. And they're all with the same attorney. So I will know by the end of the week if I'm able to get a hold of him. If going to go, settle, or if he's requesting, he's already adjourned once, so, they'll go if they don't get settled.
What about the 18th?
I could do it in the afternoon anytime.
So you possibly the 20th, it depends on.
21st.
Yeah, but, and you can't really, could we plan on doing it before? What time does your court start?
At 6.
At 6? We could do a 4:30 or 5 that day.
You're gonna need more than an
We're gonna need
hour.
an hour.
Think so?
Oh, yeah.
I think we've done it
What about the
12
18th?
minutes.
What about the 18th?
Monday.
18th, the afternoon. Well,
Can't we
that
do
would still be,
5:30?
that would still be with people
You
yet
can
then.
still come. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bill can still
Bill
come.
can still
Bill
come.
can still come to a closed session.
As
By
required.
invitation of the board.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Would the 18th work for you, though, if we did something?
Are you even available on the 18th?
That's fine.
Look at me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what time would be a good time?
Bill.
I have, that's Monday the 18th.
Cool, we can sit out on the bench together.
I have an 8:30 and a 1. And the 1 is in Wauwatosa. Probably take an hour, so it'll be late afternoon.
My taxes at the.
No.
We can do 6:30.
Does it work? 6?
I can make whatever work that day.
Okay, you're still around then.
Yep.
So 6 PM on the 18th? Pete and Bill. 6
What
o'clock.
is the meeting?
Closed.
But is,
Closed meeting with the
Closed.
chief and lieutenant.
Chief and the, you want to call you, interim chief possibly.
okay,
But you
so it's
still
a police
want-
department related closed session, got it?
Yeah.
You gonna say now, no now, John, so we don't invite you, or you would like you to keep it, see, we're gonna talk to you about that, so. So make sure you don't show up and go.
No. There's a lot that has to be talked about,
4:18,
with
6 p.m.
2 open
Yeah.
positions, so.
Okay, okay, and the last thing is, me and Barb are going to a town association meeting on the 23rd, that has.
Monday.
Monday the
I
18th.
have a conflict.
Okay, this is the one where the training for Orderly U is, have you intended to do that online, or are we gonna go in person, because we signed up for that.
I thought it's required every other year, and I did it online last year.
That is all.
I thought you said this year, no. You have to verify that, if they were trained last year, did they need?
Yes, they're still good. You.
Oh,
need to
okay,
train.
I
I
thought,
haven't
You
had
train
any,
in
I
a
didn't know anything
field,
about it,
but
to be
that would
honest
be
with you.
great.
well, you had it once, or you didn't have it all?
We did it
We
last
had to
year.
do it last year
Yeah.
when we
Yeah.
got on the board.
Alright, so it'll just be me.
And we were
then.
told it was good for.
Kim just mentioned that Bill could do it too. so-
Oh, yeah, Bill, 23rd of April, what do you got?
Going for lunch, Joe.
It's a Saturday?
Saturday, it's, all-day training at Whitewater.
I'm the site steward at Beulah Heights, and Kettle Moraine Land Trust is working
Okay.
that afternoon.
So you'll probably have to do it online